Welcome to Focused Mind. Thank you for watching. Do you want to master law of attraction? Abraham Hicks will explain to you how to master law of attraction.
So step one is, you know what you don't want, you know what you do want, you're asking for what you do want. Step two is source lines right up with what you want, and as your source energy focuses in that non-resistant way, all cooperative components are gathered and things are lined up for you. And then when you take this most delicious of all of the steps, which is step three, when you stop arguing for your limitations and pointing out what's wrong, when you stop seeing the lack of what you want or the absence of what you want, and you turn your attention to what you want and why you want it, and you feel the relief of the tension as you focus in the direction of what you want and begin even to feel satisfaction even before it is fully manifested, because you're now no longer in contradiction to what you want. So now you're beginning to feel frisky and expectant and anticipation and eagerness. Now you are achieving step three. Step three is a state of alignment with what you want. It's allowing who you really are and all that you have become to be fully manifested, to turn to the things in your life where you and others can see and hear and smell and taste and touch them. Step four is being really good at that. Some think that's funny, that step four is just being good at step three, but we think it's worth acknowledging the mastery of allowing, the mastery of focus, the mastery of caring about how you feel and being willing to focus in a way that feels good, the mastery of acknowledging, the mastery of calibrating the vibration of your being to the vibration of the source within you. Mastery of creation, mastery of letting in what I'm asking for, mastery of putting myself in a position in my human form where I can witness the becoming of what I've asked for. It is so fun to witness it becoming, Humans, you mostly just want it to become so you can then focus on it having already become. But that isn't what you intended. When you came into this physical body, you knew you would always be in the state of becoming. So you didn't plan on it being the jerky experience that it sometimes is for you. You didn't plan on wanting it, withholding yourself from it, worrying about it, not letting it in, and then in a weak moment of forgetting what you're doing, focusing and letting it in, and then surprise, there it is for a minute. You didn't want the roller coaster ride that so many of you are having. You knew that when you came into this physical body, you had the capability of focusing in the direction of what you want at all times as you're witnessing it in its various phases becoming. You knew that you would never get it done and that you couldn't get it wrong. And you knew that the reason you couldn't get it wrong is because you can't get it done. And you knew that anytime you're standing in the absence of something that you want, that it would catapult you into the vibrational existence of it, and that all you would have to do is focus in anticipation of it becoming, and that it would be. As humans, you've sort of trained yourself to emotionally respond to what you see, and that is the biggest thing that holds you in a place of unhappiness and of deprivation of who you really are and what you want, of all other things put together. It's that most of your vibrational offering comes from what you're observing, and what you're observing is old news. What you're observing is what you've allowed to turn to things, but there's a whole vibrational reality, we call that your vortex. There's this whole vibrational reality that is full of all of the things that you have become already in a vibrational sense, that you've just got to let into your physical experience, because once you've given birth to it, you have to let it be your experience. You can't keep asking for things and holding yourself apart from it and feel good. So the joy of life experience is to give birth and then to witness the steady, never-ending unfolding of the more coming into vibrational reality. We want you to get so good, so accustomed to knowing that there's more that's coming into being, that you are satisfied with the part that you're witnessing coming into being right now. Step five is being so good at step four that now when you're back in a contrasting moment where you're clearly knowing what you don't want, because it never ends. Life's just going to keep moving forward for you, but you're not feeling negative emotion in the contrast. You're understanding that the contrast is necessary for the expansion of the whole. So you don't take it personally. You don't beat up on yourself about it or anybody else. You don't look at it as some terrible thing that is threatening you, because you know it doesn't threaten you. It gives birth to the more, you see. We have enjoyed this interaction immensely, and let us tell you why. We're out here on the leading edge with you, and together we've gone to places that we have not been before, with the clarity and the specificity as what has happened here. But there's something even more than that that is satisfying about this, and that is the movement in energy as a result of your newfound understanding, or wanting to understand, the concept of calibration. You know about calibration in terms of your electronics and tuning your guitars and all kinds of things, and we want you to understand that you are natural harmonizers, because you know that you are vibration. You've always been vibration. The law of attraction has always been the harmonic factor, and so you were born wanting to harmonize. So as you move around with one another in your environments, the desire to harmonize is so strong that you translate it, bless your hearts, and nothing has gone wrong, but you've translated your desire to harmonize into your desire to please, your desire to please others who got there first, who have been around for a while, who also want you to please them. And so you sort of have trained each other into a response to each other of harmonizing or pleasing that isn't serving you not that well, because you've called each other not meaning to. You've trained others and they've trained you away from your own guidance system, to the point that, and this is a pretty dramatic point, don't you think, to the point that something that feels good to you that you want to do, you don't do because somebody else doesn't think it's a good idea. Don't you think that's interesting, that you have rather easily, and we get why, given up your guidance system for someone else's guidance? And the other person's guidance, lovely as they are and well-meaning as they mostly are, can't be trusted in this sense. They haven't walked in your shoes. They don't know who you are coming in. They haven't lived the life that has caused you to calibrate your vortex. They can guide themselves, but they can't guide you. And your desire to please them has caused you to replace your own sensitivity to what feels good to you, to a sensitivity to the reactions of others. We want you to feel with us the emotions of alignment that happen to you often, and we want you to identify them and then isolate them and then calibrate to them, to acknowledge that, you know how when an eye just occurs to you and you feel a sort of feeling of elation about that, ride that wave, stay with that. Don't be quick to ask the questions, well, how am I going to do that? Or what would so-and-so think about that? Just let that feeling of elation be enough to call you into more thought about it until you can feel the increase in the momentum of that feeling. When you find yourself in a discussion, you joined a group, doesn't matter why, maybe you were invited, maybe you were assigned, maybe you just were supposed to be there. You find yourself in some situation where the conversation turns to something that gives you that uncomfortable feeling in your stomach. So acknowledge that in that moment, without meaning to, you're being calibrated to something, maybe a problem, maybe it's real, maybe it's something that you think is worth giving your attention to, but know this also. You are being calibrated, or you are allowing yourself to calibrate yourself away from your true power, from your true knowing, and from who you really are. Just acknowledge that, even if you don't feel like saying, gotta go, or oh, I just remembered there's someplace I need to be, or I don't like being here with you guys in this negative conversation. We're not encouraging that. But we are encouraging that you notice the difference in the way you are feeling, and that from this point forward you begin asking yourself what kinds of situations, what people in your life already, what kind of television programs, what kinds of movies, what kinds of things that you do in your life, what things are calibrating you upward and what things are calibrating you downward. Just begin noticing that. And then what will begin to happen with you is that as your awareness of how you feel becomes more constant, more apparent to you, what will happen is you'll reach more and more for what feels better. So you'll be in tune with who you really are. So more of those thoughts from your inner being will be streaming to you, and more awareness on your part that this really is something good to follow. And then off you go. People who are watching you won't know for sure what they're seeing. They'll notice that you seem to feel better more of the time. They'll notice that you're happier more of the time. They'll notice that more things are going your way more of the time. They may even ask you about what you're doing. And here's our strongest point. Don't try to explain to them what you're doing until first you're sure what you're doing. And next, they actually ask you. Don't try to impose your happily ever after living on anybody else. They have to be ready. They have to be asking too. We began this conversation today by saying to you that you are more than you see in these physical bodies. And we think that now we are at the end of the conversation, that you're beginning to understand what we mean by that. You are source energy in physical form, and source energy has no resistance. But you are unique. You're not source energy, singularly. You didn't remain non-physical focus. You said, I'll go forth and I will explore new, and I will experience contact, and I will ask for more. And your inner being said, and we will remain here, focused constantly on what you're asking for, your guiding light, so that you will feel the power of who you have just become. That's the thing that we want you to understand most of all. You are in a state of constant becoming. You're constantly becoming. You're constantly becoming more of who you really are, or more of something else. But this is the way it all blends together. Because you are human, and because there is resistance, and because you're willing to focus within it, you are able to calibrate what isn't wanted in order to produce what is wanted. Can you understand that this is what the evolution of all species is about? Can you sort of feel that this is what the expansion of the universe is about? And can you understand how good it is that you made that choice to come and have this experience? But you never intended to make a career out of step one. You never intended to try to find influence in yourself or in others to gather together in those piles of disconnect and then convince other people to live your way. You never ever intended to live conditional love. You knew that there would be plenty of conditions, but you intended to live pure, non-physical love, and then to create loving conditions. And that's a distinction that's sometimes hard to hear, because good conditions can make you love, but if you get conditionally focused, then you'll find bad ones that will keep you from loving. If you're conditionally focused, if you let the conditions control how you feel, then it's going to be a sort of rocky ride. But if you can feel what it feels like to be in the true power of your whole love, and then you can demonstrate that through your life experience, now you are not a conditional lover. Now you are a lover who creates conditions. So, is it a good idea to look for positive aspects? Yes. Is looking for positive aspects conditional? Yes, it is. But we're asking you to do the other before you do that. In other words, the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets. But now you know why. Now you're not lost. Now you're not confused. You see what we mean? We've enjoyed this more than words can say. And for now, we are complete. So nice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.